Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. The recitation is Salok Mahalla Tija. Kalo Masajani kya sadai hai, Hirday hi likh leho. Sada Sahib ke rang rahe, Kabhu na tu tasne ho. Kalo Masajani jaisi, लिखिया पी ना ले जाए, नानक सह प्रीत न जायसी, जो तुर छोड़ी सच्चे पाए। महला तीजा। नदरी आमदा नाल न चलई, वेखो को व्यो पाए। सतगुर सच दृढ़ाया, सच रहो लवलाए। नानक सबदी सच है, करमी पल्लै पाए। पौड़ी। हरे अंदर बाहर एक तू जाने है भेत। जो कीचे सो हर जानदा, मेरे मन हर चेत। सो डरे जे पाप कमावंदा, धर्मी विगसेत। तू सच्चा आप न्याओ सच, तां डरिए केत। जिन्ना नानक सच पछाणिया, से सच रलेत। हर अंदर बाहर एक तू जाने भेत। जो कीचे सो हर जानदा, मेरे मन हर चेत. So this is an invocation to the self, the har. You are omnipresent, all-pervading. You're omniscient, all-knowing. And the mind is being nudged. Live in conscious awareness of that all-knowing herself. So this is suggesting to us, andar bahar ek tu, that really there is no distinction between what we perceive to be the outside and the inside. As a matter of fact, there is no outside, there is no inside, there is no up, there is no down. These apparent distinctions that appear in our mind are just that, mental distinctions caused by the mind. These are intellectualizations, the way we operate. However, these distinctions are also the source of our troubles. We humans, as a species, have a peculiar congenital blindness, which Gurbani calls haume, ego consciousness. That is what causes this apparent distinction between things, necessary for our survival, but misleading at the same time. So that's a paradox. We need it in order to survive, and yet it strains our inherently, it strains the way we perceive ourselves as separate in relation to the universe. So it's a very interesting, paradoxical problem. So the goal of life then becomes, how do we overcome this blindness and recognize the truth of our oneness with the world around us? That is the ultimate purpose. Jinna Nanak Sach Pashaniya, those who recognize this truth, say such a relate ral jana, to become like that truth. In other words, to banish all distinctions. They find union. Union simply means that divisions and distinctions have disappeared. But the paradox of our existence is that even while we can sense, we wish to remain settled in our intellectual constructs. We just simply dread change. We want to hang on to what we have, which is another one of those paradoxes in life, because the ego that causes all of this, the very first thing that it wants is to survive, and fear is what underlies its existence. So it's always grasping on to what is familiar and always dreading what is not familiar. And here is the rub. Understanding the self, the creator, that all-knowing and all-pervading self cannot be an intellectual exercise. One does not need pen and ink or a weighty treatise, as this Shabad says. Kalo Masajani, a-sabad-a-day, hirday hi likh le. Don't ask for a pen, ink pot to write on. Instead, inscribe in your heart the message. What does that mean? What it is saying is, you need to shift your paradigm from viewing the universe through the intellect to seeing it through the eyes of intuitive awareness. What does intuitive awareness mean? It's a lived experience. So no amount of reading of scripture or of following religious doctrine is going to give you a lived experience of anything. You just have to experience it. So one has to learn how to access that invaluable perspective that this Shabad is asking us to adopt. That transformative experience is possible only through the Sabad, the message of the enlightener, which is the Creator itself. Nanak sabdi sach hai. It is the Sabad that brings about this paradigm shift and a reorientation of the mind. Satgur, sach dridaya, sach reha livalai. So it is the Satgur who breaks down the artificial barrier that we perceive between ourselves and the universe by educating and culturing our mind to the truth, which is the unchanging essence of a constantly changing universe. Nadri aamda naal na challe, vekhe ko vyape. So this is the truth that we begin to fathom, that what we see as fleeting and transitory, behind it sits this perfect awareness, unchanging awareness. And that is the paradigm we have to adopt. This is the replacement of ordinary ego consciousness that we have, where we see things separated, with infinite awareness. It isn't as if you'll stop seeing objects and diverse things. It is an awareness. You will recognize that there is an interconnectedness. That is what is called by seeing with the eye of the self, the har, from which nothing is concealed. Jo kich so har janada. Mere man har chet. Become like the self. Become like the self. And that happens within the grace of divine presence. We are all in the presence of the divine. And the divine is grace. Karmi palle pae. With those thoughts, until the next time, Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.